Learning to code was one of the best decisions of my life. It allowed me to escape a life that I hated and get my foot in the door into one of the most in-demand industries in the world and start building the career of my dreams. The cold hard truth that I want to give to you in this video is that for most people who start to learn coding, this is not the reality, because 99% of people have absolutely no idea how to learn coding properly to the point where you can actually get these results. The real rewards go to the top 1%. But luckily for you, I have spent a lot of time looking at the kind of people who are in the top 1% of programmers who are actually getting these hefty salaries, who are actually like literally world class at the skill of programming itself. I want to give you 3 keys, the 3 things that distinguish these top 1% of programmers from the rest of the pack. But then I thought to myself, like, even these 3 keys are really not enough, because there's one more secret. This secret, what I call the 4th key, that even I really only realized in like the past year, that has allowed me to not only be great at coding, but actually get something that is even more valuable than the skill of coding itself. But before that, make sure you pay attention carefully, because this last secret will not make any sense for you if you don't master these first 3 keys yet. So let's get started. The first thing that you really need to understand is that the top 1%, they all have a system that allows them to learn efficiently and to keep their life organized. And this past week, I actually released a video where I go through a version of this system that I've now made available to people. So if you don't have this kind of system for yourself yet, I recommend you go check that video out. It's going to be the first link in the description down below. So now let's talk about the first key that differentiates the top 1% from the 99% of programmers. So every year, countless of people take their first jab at Free Code Camp or the Odin Project, or if they're really serious, they might even check out my premium flagship program, Python Developer Masterclass, and they might even use the code IMC for a sweet discount on the program. Anyway, the thing is that even these top 1%, they really all start in the same places. They have access to the exact same information as you do. So what is it then that differentiates top 1% from the 99% if everyone has access to the same information about coding? Well, the first differentiating key is relating to how the top 1% use this information. Your average individual who learns to code tends to approach learning in the traditional way. The focus is on memorization, and they often seek knowledge passively by reading or by watching some videos. And of course, there's nothing wrong with starting with this. It's of course how you need to start. You need to learn the basics somehow from someone. But the mistake lies in what happens next. Whereas the 99% keep obsessing about watching or reading about some more and more niche details around coding. What they don't realize is that this is not actually how the human brain is designed to learn. But the top 1%, whether deliberately or by luck, have realized that the human brain really only learns through action. They focus on the action. They focus on what they can make with code, not on like what they can learn and things like this. And when you really think about this, like, this makes sense. Like, if you think of like a shoemaker, they're not gonna go and just like learn in theory like all the things about shoes, the laces, like the insoles and whatever, without actually making a shoe themselves. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. You wouldn't want your shoes to be made by someone who's just read books about it. The same is the case with building software. No one wants to hire a person who has never built real software. So if you're really serious about leaping past the 99% of programmers, you need to be willing to get your hands dirty as early as possible and start building real projects. Because the first key that differentiates the top 1% from the 99% is that they have a massive bias for action. Like, sure, your first creations are not exactly gonna be masterpieces, but all of us have to get through these scrappy beginnings at some point. You need to start doing that as early as possible through having a bias for action. And to see coding as a craft, as an art, to be used to create something, not as this like science, like chemistry, where you're supposed to like memorize all these details and like, see, this is this collection of facts, because that is not at all where the value of coding comes from. So if the first key was related to your attitude towards coding, the second key is really related to your attitude towards work itself. But really, what does it mean to be above the 99%? Well, it means to be above normal people, meaning that you cannot be a normal person. You cannot see yourself as just a regular person who does regular person things and makes regular person decisions, because making decisions like regular people is going to lead to a regular life. So then we have to ask ourselves, if we want to become top 1% software engineers that actually get these amazing results, remember, which are the things that we actually want at the end of the day, what are the decisions that the 99% are doing all the time that we basically want to avoid? And this might sound like a difficult question, but if you really think about it, like, it's pretty easy to tell why most people aren't successful. Like, it's currently Friday night as I'm filming this here in Finland. What are most people doing on a Friday night? Well, they're probably out drinking, or maybe they're just like relaxing because I've deserved it at the end of my very tough week, or like whatever. What am I doing? Well, I am filming these YouTube videos because this is my business that is making me money and that is making me successful. And I have chosen to prioritize my success and prioritize my career in this season of life that I am in. So therefore, I am doing very non-normal people things because I have chosen that I don't want to live that regular person life. So what does this mean for you? This means that when your friends ask you to come out drinking with them, you're probably gonna have to say no more times than in the moment you would like. And yes, most people, by definition of them being most people, are gonna think that's weird. They're gonna think, well, why are you spending your time coding? Like, shouldn't you be doing this or that? They're gonna think that it's not normal because by definition it is not normal. But if you want top 1% results, you need to be comfortable and willing to make decisions that normal people don't make. And that is exactly what key number 2 is all about. So these first 2 keys are really foundational, but now let's get more specific. So of course we all know that in tech, there's a lot of languages and frameworks that you could be learning. And let me just say what no one else will say. They all have their place. Just because one person is learning C++ or another person is learning JavaScript, it doesn't mean that any of them inherently have a better chance of getting you into the top 1% and into these really positions or great positions in your career or whatever your goal is. Everything really just depends. So let me just give you a sort of a framework to think about what you should be learning. So the first thing to understand is that to be really great at anything, you need to have focus. Focus is the real currency of this day and age. It's like fighting with a shotgun versus a sniper rifle. Sure, the guy with a shotgun is probably gonna make some damage to a lot of different targets, but you could be damn sure that if your goal is just to master one thing, the guy with the sniper rifle who sets his sights, breathes in and out, and shoots is so much more likely to actually hit that target. So how do you pick your target? Well, it really just depends on what you are interested in. I've made a video of this in the past, which I will also leave down below in the description. But broadly, for example, if you want to learn game development, you should just look into what are the languages and frameworks used in that area. If you want to make a desktop application, you should decide, okay, do I want to make it for Windows? Do I want to make it for Mac? Or do I want to make it cross-platform? And just that decision will decide your language and framework for you. So really, you shouldn't be thinking about what language to learn. You should be thinking about specifically what types of projects and things do you want to build / be working on in your career. And that decision will usually make the decision of language and framework for you. So these are the 3 foundational keys that if you master and you just stick to it for long enough, you will probably make it into the top 1% of programmers. But then when I got to this point of planning the video, I realized that just becoming really good at coding is really not worth it in and of itself. Like, why are we trying to learn the code? Well, we're trying to learn the code because we want some result as a result of it. We want a great life. We want money. We want a certain kind of career. And now, having tried a couple of different paths around programming, I've certainly realized that all of them are not created equal at all. To illustrate what I mean by this, let me give you a story from my own life. So when I got into coding, I got into it for a few specific reasons. Number one, I wanted to have a lucrative career. Like, who wouldn't? I wanted a career where I could have more freedom. Specifically, I'd seen that a lot of the time programmers are able to work from home. They don't necessarily have as many meetings during their day. And the third thing I wanted is I wanted to have stimulating work, something that was actually interesting and like logically challenging to my brains, because those are the kinds of things that I really enjoy working in. But had I made a slight pivot in like the exact direction of my career, I could have got these three things much better. For example, rather than becoming a traditional software developer working for a big company, had I instead become a freelancer or went for building my own startup from the get-go, as I'm doing right now, I could have got more freedom because I wouldn't have had a job. I could have got either more pay as a freelancer or more potential for pay as a startup, at least if it succeeds, and even more stimulating work, because the thing is, if you work for a big company as a software engineer, your work is probably not actually gonna be that stimulating. Like, I can tell this from experience. You're working on a very specific thing. That was my experience. So had I more properly considered what specific area of programming or what kind of programming career was right for me, I could have got these actual results, which was what I actually wanted, much sooner and to a much higher degree. A lot of people start learning to code just because they heard online that it's like a great skill to learn from people like me or whatever. But what you need to consider that just learning to code doesn't automatically give you an amazing life. What are these results that you actually want? Like, maybe you're the opposite of me and you want just like a very chilled 9-to-5 life and you just want the stability of that salary. Those are completely opposite goals from me in many ways. Those two goals call for a completely separate path within programming. For you, that 9-to-5 traditional path that was not right for me could be absolutely perfect. Whereas if you went to try to work for a startup or start freelancing, you might absolutely hate it and realize that your previous job might have been better in the first place. And maybe at the end of all of this, you realize that actually coding isn't even the best way to give you the life that you want. Maybe there is an easier, a better way, and that is completely fine as well. But the fourth and last key, that is like the most important one, is to be clear on your why, because that thing, that why, is actually the thing that is eventually gonna keep you going in the first place. Because learning to code is freaking hard. So unless you have this very clear why, you're probably gonna quit before you get there anyway. So right now you're probably wondering like, okay, what are these actual like different paths within coding? Like, what do you mean? And you're probably also wondering, okay, who is each path right for? How do I know when it's right for me? And because this video is already way too long, what I'm gonna do is next week, I'm gonna send an email on my newsletter where I break these paths down and I prescribe exactly which one is right for your situation. So if you want to get that email, make sure to go and sign up to my newsletter down below. It's absolutely free to sign up. And sure, yeah, I want your email transparently. When you sign up, you also get some free Notion templates that I send to everyone who signs up. And after that, no matter which path you choose, no matter what you decide to do, if you want to be in the top 1% of programmers, you need a system. You need something to track your progress, to log your project, to take notes. So if that is something that you don't yet have, I made a video down below. That's going to be the first link. And you can also click on here where I talk in a lot more detail about this system that I have actually created and made available to people. So I highly recommend you go watch that next.